All right. Well, we've got a few folks in here now, and I think more are trickling in, but we'll go ahead and get started. Good morning, everybody. I'm Eli Beckman. I'm the mayor. We've also got several town staff on the line. We've got Todd Cusimano, our town manager. We've got RJ Suko, our public works director. We've got Rebecca Vaughn, the assistant town clerk, the town clerk and assistant town manager. And we've got Mike Moretti, the code enforcement officer. We'll turn it over to Todd in a second for sort of a week in review, but I just want to let everybody know, I know several of the people who are on the call right now were actually on the line last night participating, but we had a special meeting of the police council, and that was sort of a nice big public dialogue on sort of all of the discussions that we've been having as a community over the last few weeks regarding policing, policy, community values, that sort of thing. It was a really good, productive discussion. We had Chief Norton there. We were all fully engaged, and I think it was just a really positive experience for everybody. We had a lot of members of the public share, their points of views and share their suggestions. And then they were all discussed among the police council and among Chief Norton. And so it was a fantastic event. Thank you to everybody who participated. And I just want to say again, for anybody who missed it, Chief Norton gave a fantastic video Q&A, just answering questions from the public that you can view on YouTube. And the link to that is on, I believe it's on the town's website and also on the Central Marin Police's website. All right, Todd, you want to give us a quick week in review here?
No, so I think this last week has been steady as we go. Again, the council passed kind of really our 12 to 18 month work plan for the town. And so that's on the website, and we're prepared to talk about it today. If anyone has any questions about that. Again, if anyone has any questions about, as you said, Mr. Mayor, about our recent meetings with Central Marin Police, we're happy to answer follow-up questions in that area. And you also have staff on the line. So I really will just turn it over to the community and see what's on the top of their mind.
Awesome. All right, well, everybody's on the line. If you got any questions about anything, go ahead and raise your hand here on Zoom, and we'll get you on and you can ask us whatever's on your mind. And we'll give folks a second there to put their hands up if they have any questions. But yeah, I just want to say, the last council meeting that we had was really exciting for me, and I think for my colleagues as well, because staff did bring forward the work plan, as Todd said, and that really lays out sort of our blueprint for the next 18 months. What are all the big projects that we're looking to get done? What are our priorities? Where are the areas where we're looking to make the biggest impact? And so that was really fantastic. I think obviously, the number one priority these days is going to be responding to COVID, both the public health aspect and also the economic recovery aspect. So that's going to be a big focus for the town going forward over the next 12 to 18 months. But we've also got, all of the other town business, nothing is falling by the wayside here. Everything's moving forward. And I'm really impressed with staff's ability. They laid out a really ambitious and solid work plan that I think really reflects their incredible work ethic. And I'm excited to see what we get done in the coming months. No hands are going up yet. So either folks are feeling shy this morning or we just don't have any questions, I guess.
So we also have Ashley, our Parks and Recreation Director, and Adam Wolf, our Planning and Building Director, on the line as well. Again, I do. It's really impressive, the work plan from our staff. It's one of the things, as you see across, if you read the Marin Independent Journal and watch social media, you've seen a lot of cities and towns are cutting services, cutting costs, and really trying to ride this wave over the next, 24 months. And when I was hired back in 2016, and every council since, it has held true. They're like, the number one priority on the work plan is fiscal sustainability. Have a plan, not have a plan for today and tomorrow, but have a plan for the next 10 years. And we've built that model to withstand the worst fiscal crisis we've ever sustained ×3. And this is ×3 in a short period of time. And so we're about to test all that work that we've worked so hard to do. And we're going to do it. And we're going to do it with maintaining our services. And we're going to go attack this thing. And that's what that work plan represents, as you said, Mr. Mayor. And so I'm excited about it. It looks like you have a couple questions, so I'll stop talking and turn it over to Lucinda and John.
Awesome. All right, we'll get to Lucinda first and then Jonna. Hey, Lucinda.
Good morning. Good morning. Sorry I missed the police council. I didn't think that I was invited as the public. I thought it was more of a closed meeting, so.
No, they're all public meetings, and we welcome and encourage participation.
Thank you. I see Mike Moriarty's on, and I was going to give you a call today, Mike, just to check and see. There's a dead tree. This is really crazy, just with all the things else going on. There's a dead tree that is off the fire road off of Alta Terrace. And is that something that you would come and look at, or is that, what do we do about that? I'm not sure whether it's on the person's property or on the right of way for the fire road. Would that be possible for you to look at and see? Because it's been dead for about 3 years now. It'd be nice to get rid of it.
Absolutely. So maybe I could follow up with you via phone after this or email to get the specifics as to the location, and either myself and or Chief Martin will go up and assess the situation and put it on, coordinate with our fire abatement team to have that circumstance mitigated. Would that be acceptable?
Perfect. I'll give you a call later today.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
Awesome. Thanks, Lucinda. Thanks, Mike. Anything else, Lucinda?
No, that's fine.
Okay. Thank you. All righty. Jana is up next. Good morning, Jana.
Hi, how are you?
Good. How are you?
Good. I've just been reading through the incredibly valuable comments submitted by Peter Schwartz, a longtime Corte Madera resident with a great deal of expertise in regard to the new town hall plans. And I hope that everyone who's following the discussion about the plans for new town hall will read through not only the recommendations and comments that he has made, but the details of his background on LinkedIn. He was on the Planning Commission for 10 years, a number of years ago, and he is devoted to the town. And I think that what he has provided in the terms of professional and technical expertise in his recommendations for some changes to the proposed plans are probably worth a few $100,000 if you had to hire him as a consultant to evaluate the plan and make those recommendations. So please encourage everybody to take a really good look at it, because it's a tremendously valuable contribution to the planning process for the new town hall. That's it.
Thanks, Jana. I'm just trying to think if I've seen these particular comments before. Where did you read them?
Online from town hall.
Okay. All right.
They were
I'll take a look.
They were on my inbox this morning. I think he sent them to the planning department.
Okay. I'll take a look and make sure that if I haven't read them already, I'll make sure I do.
Good. Thanks.
Thanks for letting us know.
Bye.
Bye. All righty. No other hands up right now. So I think while we wait for people to think of any questions, maybe we'll turn it over to department heads to give kind of quick little updates on what's going on in their purviews, and if they want to speak to anything specific regarding their respective areas of the work plan, and maybe that'll also trigger some more questions from the public. How does that sound?
That sounds great. Do you want to start with Adam though on the because tonight I believe it is the town hall project. Mm-hmm. It's going to the Planning Commission, and there's a comment from Jana. Maybe Adam can jump in there and start that off.
Sure thing. Sounds great.
Hi all, how are you doing? I'm working from home today, and there's quite a commotion going on back here, so there's not video and whatnot. But yeah, tonight, obviously, and I think I mentioned this last week, we are going to be having our second study session with the Planning Commission. And just as everyone can hear me okay? All right, well, and so this is essentially a continuation of our first meeting at the Planning Commission that was held on April 28th. And I think we had a really good comments and attendance. And indeed, Peter Schwartz did make some great comments on the record at that meeting and provided those in writing. Actually, I think it was a follow-up to immediately follow-up from that meeting. So really the plan this evening is just to take all those comments and really we summarize them. And then we're going to show with Ron Cappy, the project architect, exactly how those comments were incorporated into a revised project design. And, you know, the idea is really to go back to the Planning Commission this evening, get additional comments and feedback. And if things look like this is going in the right direction, then hopefully we will start to prepare the application for the entitlements, and including the environmental documentation that will have to go out for public comment and review as well. So that's really where we are in the process, and I encourage everybody to really join again tonight. I think there's been a lot of work, as many of you know, for over the last couple of years on this, and just to reiterate that, you know, we're moving forward with the design at this point. Obviously, the larger question of how to and when this will actually be able to move forward is a discussion that's going to be had over the next year as sort of the finances and the budget become getting, you know, more clear focus. And we are looking at, in fact, I think after this meeting, getting a revised cost estimate as well that I think will be helpful in sort of moving that part of the discussion forward over the next several months. And that's the town hall project. Obviously, there's a lot of other things that are going on. We've implemented a couple of new programs that I think we're really excited about. The outdoor dining and other business program, which really is a fast-tracked process with no fees for businesses to be able to expand out into the public right away, either sidewalks or public parking areas, to expand their business capacity during sort of the social distance requirements and other safety protocols that are needed. That was implemented. The first business to do that was, actually there are two, but the first one was really Zinn's up in Old Corte Madera Square. They apparently had a very successful weekend with that program, expanding out into a couple of parking spots at that Old Corte Madera Square. And then also TJ's Gym, which is also up there. They were expanding and taking advantage of some of the extra parking that was on their property. That's the lot that is sort of on the northern side of Old Corte Madera Square in Menke Park, to do some outdoor classes and things outside where it's a safer environment during COVID. But we want to expand that out and make this, publicize that more this week. I've been working with Julie Kritzberger on sort of some of that, and we'll also hopefully work with Lorena on contacting some other small businesses with regards to that program, and see who can take advantage of that. And then we also just have put some tables and chairs out at Menke Park, similar sort of thought process there. This is a way really that people can patronize local businesses and then either dine or take their food to go, and sort of just use some additional space that is really unutilized or underutilized at this point in time in the parking area over there, and turn it into a sort of an expansion of the park for small groups to gather and really just create some community activity as well in a socially distanced manner. So, you know, it is an experiment, really. Where, you know, this is something that we're just trying out and seeing how it goes. But hopefully, you know, as the word gets out, it becomes an amenity that during the summer months, at least, people really start to enjoy. It's a beautiful park. I was up there on Friday, and it was just so many people. I think actually Jonna was leading a women's group historic tour where they all met there. And so maybe those groups can add a little half-hour point, you know, just to sit and enjoy the park in a shade or the sun and whatnot. So those are just a couple of things, a bunch of other activities as well, but I think that's enough for now, and maybe that will spark some discussion or interest from the group.
That's awesome, Adam. Thank you. And I think that what you guys are doing with experimenting about, you know, how we can make Menke Park available for outdoor, businesses, outdoor programming. I think that's awesome. I think that's a fantastic, fantastic way for us to kind of innovate a little more public amenities during this crazy COVID time. So thank you guys for taking the lead on that and doing that. I see Lucinda's hand went back up, and Jonna's hand is still up. Also, don't know if that is just residual or not, but I think Lucinda put hers back up, so I'll get her on the line. There goes John. Okay, Lucinda, let's get her on here.
Hey, I just was trying to let you know to hear Adam is very, very difficult. So if there's any way to increase the volume, thank you.
Thanks, Lucinda. Sorry.
Thank you. Hopefully that helps.
Yeah. Been having some work from home mic issues, maybe.
Yeah.
Awesome. Okay, thanks, Lucinda. No other hands up right now, so we'll keep going if there's any other department heads that want to speak. But I just want to let everybody on the line, I just want to remind you guys, this is not a presentation, this is a conversation. So if you guys have any questions or you want to just like share your thoughts on something, share some feedback, throw your hand up and we'd love to hear from you. So, you don't have to just sit and listen to us. There we go. Okay, now we get some hands up. Perfect. Okay, we'll get Patty on here first. Hey, Patty.
Against the backdrop of social justice and COVID and everything, this seems really, really, really teeny, but I wonder if this is the time to refurbish those degraded picnic tables over at the park. I brought it up a couple of years ago, and it was supposed to be on someone's budget sometime, and it's just so embarrassing that the tabletops are so wrecked. So just wondered if that could be addressed during the time when no one's using them. RJ has an answer.
Yeah, happy to jump in. So as you know, that we have some improvements going on at Skunk Hollow, and we're removing the old playground structure. And there's some really good quality redwood that we're gonna salvage and be able to use for various projects, such as, either repairing or refinishing other, tables and benches around town. So that'll be an option kind of later in the summer. It doesn't quite address your point about jumping in while people can't use them. We are still very slammed at the moment. Our crews are running around like crazy. So it's just a balance of kind of trying to catch up with all the lost time and also trying to take advantage of the areas that aren't being used and the traffic that's not on the roads. But it's definitely on our list of things to get to in the near future.
Good, I'm glad it's still on the list. Thanks.
Yeah.
Thanks, RJ, for all you guys do. And thank you, Patty, for helping make sure things don't fall off the radar here. Appreciate it. Anything else? Patty?
That's all I've got for the moment, unless
okay.
Sparks my brain juices later. Thank you.
Sure thing. Thank you. All right. We will go to Susie next.
Hello.
Morning, Susie.
So I wasn't really going to say anything. I was just tuning in to hear what's going on. But, on Nextdoor, there's this stuff going back and forth about the mask wearing. And these people are just, it's just so crazy. And people are wanting to know if it's going to be enforced and if it's going to be, if they really have to do it. And I just read in the New York Times that, the UK may possibly disallow American travel to the UK because of the behavior here and how things have been going with us, which is, it's tragic, but it also, frankly, I can understand. But so I don't know what my question is, except I know the town goes along with the policies that are recommended, and it is, I don't expect the town to reinforce it. I mean, I mean, it's sort of like wearing a condom, it's your own responsibility. It really is. And you teach your children how to take care of themselves and so forth. And you expect them to use their brains. So I don't know if the town has any ability to encourage proper behavior. And I think everybody's doing their best. I don't have any criticism. It's just, it is a concern, and it's a national concern, I'm sure. But anyway, That's all. Oh, and well, the other thing is that if you wanted to today, a little short synopsis of the police council meeting, unless there's a lot of people on who are already did attend last night. I did not, but thank you all so much.
Thanks, Susie. Yeah, you bring up a really important point. I think there's a lot of people talking about the mask situation right now. I think as things start to open up, there's the risk of us being kind of lulled into this false sense of complacency or security. And I think what we see from the case numbers is that, in fact, that's not the case. We've been able to keep a relatively good lid on case numbers precisely because we've all been so diligent about social distancing and wearing our masks. But I do think, it's becoming an increasing discussion as things open up. I think people are starting to feel like, well, that must mean that it's safer, and I don't need to necessarily wear a mask or anything like that. And I hear concerns from a lot of people in the community about, they're out hiking and they see people not wearing masks, or I don't think grocery stores are an issue because you generally can't get into the store without a mask, but walking down the street or things like that, it is a growing concern, I think. And especially in light of Governor Newsom's new order that I think just came out in the last couple of days. And somebody correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure Governor Newsom just said you have to wear a mask whenever you're inside, whenever you're inside in a public place. Not your home, obviously, but whenever you're inside, unless you're actively putting food into your mouth at a restaurant or something, and you need to wear a mask outside anytime where you can't keep a distance of 6 feet between you and other people. So if you're hiking on narrow trails that are crowded, there's a lot of passing, you got to wear a mask. And I think anybody jump in, if I'm getting some facts wrong here, if you've got something to add. But I think, it is, basically, I think what I'm trying to say is we do need to keep our feet on the gas in terms of being diligent with our mask wearing, being diligent with our social distancing, our PPE, because that's the only way that we're going to be able to continue reopening. And if we get too lax and case numbers spike again, they're going to snap back all the restrictions that we're finally getting out of now. And nobody wants that. It would be terrible for residents, it'd be terrible for our businesses, be really terrible for the town. Nobody wants that. So I think all of these things really just underscore how important it is that we keep wearing masks. And as you said, I think, it's important that people who are, influential in the community keep reminding folks. And I'm going to be putting that in my newsletter. There may be more we could do to, I don't know, put a reminder in the town newsletter or something. I don't know. But we'll definitely take a look at what we can do to just kind of help make sure that stays front and center on people's minds, because there is that risk right now of that kind of fallen by the wayside. And what was your second comment about? Did you ask for a quick synopsis of the police council meeting, or did you attend?
If it's appropriate, if there are a lot of people here that were already in attendance, then you don't need it. I mean, I can look it up on that online. Just a little synopsis.
Yeah, no.
Would be interesting if you feel like it.
Yeah, I think totally appropriate. I think, basically it was a big, long public forum. We just got a lot of feedback from residents, a lot of public comment. The council and Chief Norton listened to everything and kind of responded, had a really good, thoughtful, constructive discussion after. I think one of the big takeaways for me was that what we kind of see as, I think, our next frontier in sort of transparent and good values community policing. We're going to look at how we can basically be more transparent through data. Todd, you're welcome to jump in if you want to speak to that a little more articulately than I am. But I think that was kind of something that was hit on a lot is how can we put numbers out there to make sure that residents have the metrics to know kind of what's going on. And frankly, I think CMPA has a lot to be proud of in putting their metrics out there because they've got a great track record. Todd, anything you want to add?
Yeah, I think the story like we talked about a couple weeks ago, Susie, I was excited for the community to know what the police council and staff has worked on over the past decade, because this isn't a one-day conversation or something happened, oh gosh, let's fix it, and all of a sudden be transparent. This is our life. This is the expectation. Our officers carry guns. And so I was excited for us to tell the story. Part of it didn't come out last night, and I'll just share it a little bit with you right now. But the core, but it was so obvious that it wasn't necessary to tell what I'm about to say, because it was obvious. And I think the police council and the community members got it. As the mayor said, what we really got it wasn't necessary to, hey, let's form a task force like some others and really evaluate all these things, because that's what we've been doing. And I'll touch on that in a second. It was more data driven. So, hey, what's your early warning system as an organization, a police department? It's your use of force complaints or your complaints in general for the service you provide. And then from that, how many do you get? What types of complaints? Are any of those sustained? Is it the same officer? Is it a training issue? Is it a cultural issue? Is it a policy issue? And so we do all those things really well, but we're not putting that data online where people can see it, evaluate it, and have a thoughtful conversation with our council and our police department. And so moving forward, that's what we're going to do. And so I know Erin was on one of our calls last week. She was also on the call yesterday, and she's really data driven by race, by types of calls, and she had a lot of really thoughtful questions. And so we're excited. So moving forward, that's what we're going to do. We're going to report it back to the council. We're going to put it on our website, and we're going to make that data really available and easy to follow. So that's what I took from it. One thing that didn't come out last night was in late 2015, we actually had a third party come in. He's someone that is respected by the California Peace Officers in Training, who mandates our training as police departments. And he's also one of the most revered and respected police chiefs in the state of California. His name was Joe Crines. And he came in and he evaluated a number of things. He evaluated our staffing. And so that was one, like, hey, how many officers do we have? What types of calls should we be responding to? Our calls for service, our organizational structure, our leadership, supervision, and management, because that's really the core. Our organizational culture, do we have the right culture in place? Our succession planning, are we developing our people? Community policing and community-oriented government, like, are we set up as a Central Marin Police Authority as a whole? Our philosophy and engagement, our goals. And so from that, he basically did, at the time I was part of that leadership team, it took him 6 months. And then after the 6 months, staff was hands off. We didn't see the report. It went straight to the police council in a meeting. He recommended, I believe, 19 recommendations for us to consider. The council heard it. They asked some really thoughtful questions, and then they directed staff to go back and work on those 19 recommendations, which we supported. And so we basically took our leadership team within the police department, and we spent 2 days at a strategic planning session of how are we going to implement these 19 recommendations, and we did so. Interestingly enough, the following year, in 2016, it's one of the proudest awards recently that we've received as a department because of what it said. And it was from the Marin County chapter of the ACLU, the American Civil Liberties Union. And they gave us an award, Central Marin Police Authority, for their humanistic approach to community policing and our work with the youth, because it really starts there. I'm proud of that. And so listening to Chief Norton over the last couple of weeks and being in that police council last night, it wasn't necessary to talk about this or to be defensive or to say, look at all the stuff we did. It was obvious in the conversation that went back and forth with the community. And so anyway, I'm really proud of that. Something else that was talked about a little bit, I think it was more of a national conversation, but this defunding conversation came up a little bit last night. And what I really want to point out to the communities, again, it wasn't necessary last night because our police council got it. But when we consolidated with San Anselmo in 2013, moving forward to where we are today, if you look at what Corte Madera, Larkspur, and San Anselmo individually pay for police services, we pay $1 million plus less for police services than all of our cohorts in the Bay Area. If you actually do a comparison of population and calls for service, it's over $1 million less. So what my argument would be is that we've already done that. We've already put that money back to our communities to spend it how we should be, thoughtfully and uniquely to our jurisdictions. One of the things we did is we hired Mike Moriarty. His title's code enforcement, but he's a utility player, really, if you think about baseball terms. He's that person that, the quality of life issues. Do we really want police officers handling, some of these issues? If it's a dead tree, or who do I call? If it's a dog off a leash, if it's a leaf blower problem, if it's a long-standing neighborhood issue, Mike is there to problem solve. And I can, in all those examples, you now have citizens, you have Mike, you have staff, you have council members, the mayor's involved in a couple right now with residents, and we're problem solving issues real time. And that feels like the right thing, you know, moving forward. So I'd say that we're starting to do some of the things that are being talked about nationally. I would even say nationally, people are trying to, that defunding conversation is actually what we've done. It's like people want to be like what we're doing. And so I think we have work to do, of course, but we're doing it. And I think the council got it. So we're going to focus on data. We're going to evaluate it over the next 6 months, and things that jump out at us as issues or things that we need to talk about, we're going to jump on it right away and talk about it at that police council level.
Right. I mean, I think one thing that's really become clear to me, and I think a lot of community members, as this national conversation has prompted a lot of us to really kind of scrutinize our own police force and look more closely. One thing that's become clear is that CMPA has been, frankly, years ahead of the curve on a lot of this stuff, which is really impressive to see. We, you know, the conversations that are happening nationally, like Todd said, you know, like reevaluating police budgets and seeing, you know, if we're overspending on police, or, you know, like use of force issues or things like that. These are things that CMPA has already had their eye on, you know, like third-party review of policies and things. CMPA has been doing this stuff for years. So I think, you know, we all have a lot to be really proud of with our police department and how they function. And I think that, you know, as Todd said, none of this means that there isn't stuff that we could do better, but I do think that CMPA is really a leader among police departments. So I think all residents should be really proud of that. Anyway,
Well,
anything else, Susie?
No, thank you so much. It's just good to hear that. I feel that way about our town, and I see this, and I love hearing it again.
Right. I think residents honestly are really attuned to all this stuff. So anyway, all right. Thanks a lot for bringing that up. And if you think of anything else, we'll be here. But for now, we're going to move on to James. Let's get James on here.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. I just wanted to follow up on what Susie was saying. I too am concerned when I read some of the stuff that's on Nextdoor about masks and people's opinions about they don't work, or they're harmful, or they're this or that. And so I think the extent to which the city can do stuff either through newsletters, signage, or whatever to enforce the mask issues, the mask wearing and the distancing would be very important. I've noticed a lot out on the trails, just on like the bike path in East Corte Madera here, and going up on Ring Mountain and so forth, that most people are carrying masks with them and will put them on. But there are a number of people who don't, and don't seem to have some concept of 6 feet or more. And so particularly you get 2 people walking the other day, and they're just walking along the edge. They weren't in the middle of it, but there wasn't room without me getting off the path to stay 6 feet away from them. And so I think the more that can be emphasized by the town in some kind of way, maybe even signage on the paths occasionally or something, I don't know. The other issue of bikers and families with little kids coming by on bicycles who rarely have masks on, and the kids usually don't have great control over things, and they're coming down the center of the path, and maybe there are 2 or 3 of them, and so you just have to get off. And I think just more education about that would really be useful. The second thing I would like to mention is a thank you to Marla. You know, I had complained about the electrical wires up on the end of Endeavor, and Marla and I met, and she's done a lot of work and explained a lot of things that was going on. Plus she's very pleasant and very nice also. But I still have a larger concern about what is going on, or what could be going on about some of this stuff. For example, Marla and the town did a great job of trimming stuff up there, except that there are still some wires going through a eucalyptus tree that they're waiting now for PG&E to take care of. But the bigger issue was that situation up there had been existing for a very long time. That tree is, I don't know how high, and those wires have been in there for a very long time. And at least some of the neighbors were aware of it from my having had brief conversations with them. And nothing got done about it for, I don't know how many years that's been going on. And while I recognize that the town is much more vigilant about taking care of this stuff, I'm wondering if there's something more like neighborhood response groups could be doing to make them openly responsible, not responsible, but openly as a part of their mission to go around looking at these kinds of things and looking at these issues and reporting them and following up on them or something. I can't quite imagine how that was left the way it was for all these years. Some of it was because it was in the open space. That's actually where the trees are. So that seems to be some problem with open space control that's in somebody else's hands and that they're not taking responsibility. And then the other issue is beyond electrical transmission wires is trees are all over the place among the utility wires. And those are nowhere near being taken care of. And I don't know who, it seems nobody's responsible for it, is the best I can tell. And so again, in a windstorm, while the electric might be working, the utility wires are likely to go out. So those are just some of my concerns.
Well stated, James. I don't think I have anything to add to that. I think that's the problem. You have multiple jurisdictions that border us. You have town-owned properties, you have private properties. You have infrastructure that hasn't been maintained for over 2 decades. And a couple of years ago, we said, look, we need to do something about this. So we developed a revenue stream. Our revenue stream is now actually, I would argue, doubled with Measure C. So it allows us more inspectors, more education, more enforcement, more assistance to residents. Through the help of Marla, and I know Chief Martin is on the call as well. He can jump in here whenever you want, Chief. But we've really started having these evaluations town-wide and open space jurisdictionally with all the stakeholders to say, look, we need to do something. How are we going to do this? When can we do it? And prioritize. When your specific example of the open space area, that's part of the problem. But think about our whole jurisdiction had a whole bunch of those examples and we had to prioritize them. And that's absolutely a priority, but it takes, time, personnel, and money in our priority list to go down the line. And so this was never a 1-year solve. This is a 3-year conversation to hopefully get us where we needed to be and then to maintain it. And the Chief's on the line and he can jump in here. But I think everything you said, we share your frustration. We all need to be better. We need to make sure that we jump on this. It's the absolute #1 priority of our community, fire safety. It's our biggest threat right now. We need to be on it. So,
yeah,
Chief.
This is Chief Martin. Thanks, Todd. I think Todd hit everything, hit the nail on the head with that. It gets frustrating for us too because utility companies are regulated by the Public Utilities Commission, and so they have their own maintenance plan. Since 2017 in the North Bay fires, the PUC has really come down on PG&E pretty hard and is basically enforcing that they meet their clearing around their lines. We come across lines like this all the time, and it's just trying to figure out which utility company is the one that's responsible for it. And so it can be frustrating on everyone's part. However, like Todd had mentioned, we're on top of it. It's going to take a little bit of time. I wish everything could be cleared with the snap of my fingers. Unfortunately, the vegetation has been unmaintained for decades, and it's just going to take, I think, we started 2 years ago, but a good 3 to 5 years just to get us to a point where it's manageable.
Right, it's tough to play catch up after decades of inaction, but we're working on it. Anyway, thank you very much, James. Anything else that you wanted to bring up right now?
No, thank you very much. It's just in terms of thinking ahead, whether we need a system in place to identify this stuff. Much of it has been identified, and I understand the backlog and I understand the priority part. Marla explained that really well, about, you know, you got to start somewhere and you got to take the highest priorities. But I'm wondering if we need some sort of larger system in place to identify this stuff early on now. So when we get caught up, we'll stay caught up. I understand the frustration with PG&E and probably the open space people and other things too, because, and the other thing is, you know, when the town runs into problems with some of those, they might call on some of us or social media to get on and help out if you need it.
Yeah, and moving forward, as the town manager mentioned, is in March we passed Measure C, and through that or here at the town, the fire department, we're able to hire Todd Lando, and we're able to get him from Fire Safe Marin. So he's going to be our new wildfire hazard mitigation specialist, and he'll be evaluating the entire town for areas of improvement, which include identifying where we need to put some pressure onto utility companies for these trees. So it's going to get, I promise you it's going to happen, and it's going to get addressed. All I can say is just be a little bit patient with us. It's just going to take a few years just to get us back to where we need to be.
Hey, Chief, to that point and what James said, do you see at some point when we do that kind of holistic evaluation of really having maybe a public discussion and giving an update to the council on our findings and what we see as the priorities, big picture, and like our, you know, kind of the schedule over the next 3 to 5 years, and then also, you know, how we're set up to evaluate it, early warning systems, like James said, if there's, you know, a group of community members, either the NRGs or just whatever from social media to assist, you know, to kind of just have that robust, thoughtful, you know, public conversation so everyone knows where we're going. And it also allows us, you know, a meeting to like push people to so they can get caught up and start, you know, the conversation with us.
Yeah, I think or once Todd comes aboard, we'll be able to kind of, him and I sit down and come up, give him my vision of what I anticipate for fire safety throughout the community, and then be able to give the presentation not only to the council, but to our constituents and our neighbors, letting them know what our big plan is and how many years it's going to take us to get there. But not necessarily just the initial clearing, but what our overall maintenance plan is. Because I equate it to similar to like maintaining the Golden Gate Bridge. Once you paint it, you're not done. You've got to keep coming back and redoing it. So we're going to be revisiting these communities over and over and over again. And with the passage of Measure C, it actually gives us that sustainable revenue source to where we can actually fund these projects and actually fund the inspectors to come in and to be able to identify where our higher risks are and where we need to concentrate all of our efforts.
Thank you. You and Public Works are doing great. Thanks for all the work, you and RJ.
I was wondering if it might be helpful for me to spend just a minute or two kind of breaking down the different types of wires. That it's come up on a couple of calls recently, and I think there's a little distinction that might be helpful for the public here if you guys want to spend a couple minutes on it.
Yeah, sure. If you want to run through that real fast, certainly be helpful for me. And then I see we've got another hand up after that. But yeah.
Okay, so hopefully you can see my screen here. This is a view of Lakeside. I just picked one. So here you've got all sorts of wires around. This lower set of wires here, that's typically your communication line. So these are not, you know, high voltage or I don't even know if they're low voltage, but these are not a concern for arcing or any sort of, you know, if you had a branch on it, you're not going to really have any fire concerns there. This is the one that you're going to be concerned about. This is your non-insulated wire that you do not want branches or woody debris or anything flammable within 6 or 10 feet. And then separately, you can notice you have your electrical drops that go to your homes. And these are also insulated wires. So you'll notice they may come in contact or be closer to branches. So again, once you identify it, you have kind of different protocols and parameters to think about, but really it's this upper grouping of wires that's going to be the highest concern.
Awesome. That's really helpful, RJ. Thank you. Very cool. All right. James, if you don't have any further questions at this point, we're going to go ahead and move on to Becky. You all set, sir?
I'm all set.
Yes, sir. Okay, awesome. Thanks. Alrighty, we'll get Becky on here. Hey, Becky.
Thank you. Catalytic converter thefts that I've been reading a lot about, and my neighbors have been getting their catalytic converters stolen, and I know that Central Marin arrested a team, and I know we're supposed to leave our lights on, but I'm not following it all, and what would you recommend? Anybody?
Todd, please. I have not heard anything about this.
Yeah, so Mike can jump in here too. So, it's not one group. This is something, there's money in catalytic converters. And so this has been a longstanding issue for us for many years. And I don't know what you want to add, Mike, of, things that we may be able to do from a risk standpoint, but.
So the thing with catalytic converters, they're constructed of platinum, and the thieves are they're stealing them to recycle them, and they get a high value. CMPA did a fantastic job. They arrested a team out of Sacramento that came and hit a couple of the houses in both Corte Madera and Larkspur. What the recommendation is, though, is to, you have a car. A lot of them are high value. Is the Toyota Priuses and other Toyotas. You want to park your car in high visible areas. If you can't park it in the garage, which we know, a lot of us have carports and other curbside parking, you want to have it in a well-lit area, that's really all you can do at this point. CMPA is doing extra patrols in the area. If you can't park it in the garage, again, outside, high lit, high visible area, and just communicate with your neighbors. It's always really good thing to have a good relationship with your neighbors, to report suspicious people, have a good dialogue with your local community, and make mental notes of what's going on right in your direct neighborhood. That will help the authorities with not only car thieves, but other incidents that do occur within our community. We don't want to live in fear in our community, though. We can only do so much, and it's
you can't lock them to your car for some reason.
There is actually something you can do. There's some kind of a bolting mechanism. You can go and spend some money to have some where they can't remove it from the vehicle, but it all depends on what kind of car you have. Like I said, I guess Toyota Priuses and other Toyota vehicles are highly sought after targets because they're low to the ground and real easy to maneuver, real easy to remove. So I don't know what kind of car you have, but you could call your dealership and ask if they have ways to provide more security for that. It's unfortunate we live in society where we're trying to protect our catalytic converters, but unfortunately that's the realism.
Hey, Mike, this might be a good one. Can we coordinate with the CMPA to see if they can put out, maybe it's just some information of recommendations, like what you just said. I think that was really good. And also, I know they send it out annually, but when we look at our property crimes in Corte Madera, that over 85% of them are crimes of opportunity. And so if we did just a few things like locked our door, didn't leave things in plain sight, those crimes wouldn't have happened. I think those two messages might be very timely for this conversation.
Especially when we're talking about businesses opening soon, we're going to have that revamp of crimes of opportunity where criminals from outside the area, they look inside vehicles, they see handbags, they actually come and they watch people leave their cars. And, you go to a gym and you get out of the car and you don't want to bring your wallet in, so they watch you put your wallet under the seat. And it's opportunity. You want to be mindful of your behaviors when you're exiting your vehicle and locking. You never know who's watching. They absolutely, Todd, I'll follow up with Captain Cooley on that.
Thank you.
Thank you both. Becky, was that helpful?
That's great. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Becky. All right, Susie is next here.
So this might be a silly question, but in regard to that catalytic converter, I haven't the slightest idea where it is on the bottom of the car. Since I have to park my car in my driveway, would it be better to park the car bow in or bow out? Because I'm sure that there is an easier way, to get under the car? I mean, do they tend to access it from the rear or from the front?
It's by your exhaust pipe, right?
Yeah, it's part of your exhaust system,
Okay.
so it's going to be towards the rear of your vehicle.
So it's better for me to back in.
I would think that would be the better solution, because they would
Right.
have to come closer to your house
Exactly.
to go in and they have to use sawzalls and other cutting instruments to remove them. They're not spending the time to unbolt things, so they're using machines. So it's all about heightened awareness and again.
Okay. I like to back in anyway, so that's good. That's so you can get out during a tsunami. Did you know that? They do that in Hawaii all the time. They only back in over there. It's true.
Did not know that.
You can get out, and you can also, if your battery goes, you're parked in the right direction. It's actually pretty smart.
You're bringing us some knowledge from faraway lands here. Thank you.
Oh yeah, right.
Good question there, Susie. Thanks.
Thank you.
All right. Jonna is going to be next up here.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Just to give you a little perspective on this, if you haven't followed this issue, one of my grown-up daughters has an old Toyota Prius, and she recently had it stolen, and it cost $2,500 to replace it. $2,500 to replace a catalytic converter on a fairly old Toyota Prius. And the police told her that it takes about 1.5 minutes for thieves to get that thing off the back of your car. That
Wow.
They have a tool that just pops that thing off and they're up and running. So, it's something that's really very, very difficult to control.
Thanks for sharing that with us, Jonna. All righty. Thank you, Jonna. Let's see. We will go to Lucinda next. Hey, Lucinda.
Hi. Just in follow-up also on the catalytic converter issue. As part of what you put out or in whatever form you're going to be putting it out to the town, if you could include the other types of cars, if in fact they are of concern. So far, Mike, you've only mentioned the Toyotas and the Priuses. So I was wondering if there are other types of cars that need to worry about it, and maybe the makes would be helpful for people to know whether they've got whether they're a vulnerable issue or not. Thank you.
Well, thank you for the comment. I'm not an actual expert in car mechanics, but I will certainly. And honestly, I'm not sure if all vehicles actually have a catalytic converter. I'm using the information I've received from the police authority, but I'll certainly follow up as Todd had requested, and perhaps we can get that message across to our community members about those most vulnerable, most susceptible, high visible targets for potential catalytic converter thefts. I know there was an article in the Marin IJ this week about that theft and the apprehension of the 2 suspects. It's not an uncommon occurrence, but it's something that is new to our community. So look forward to that follow-up.
All right, great. Thank you, Lucinda. Thank you, Mike. We will go to James and then David and then Patty. Hi, James.
Hi. With regard to crime in Corte Madera and break-ins, car break-ins, I'm wondering if you can report on a weekly or monthly basis or something or other the number of car break-ins at the town center and the village. I don't think people, I don't know where to get the statistics, but a few months ago, it was apparent that there were a lot of break-ins each week. And I had the feeling that maybe the town center or something doesn't really want to disclose those numbers or something, but that they were frighteningly high. But I don't know exactly what they were. And so I think it would be useful and helpful to everybody to know what the crime stats are for Corte Madera, but particularly like the car break-ins, because I had the feeling a year or two ago that the town center security wasn't doing all that much about the break-ins, and I see they have some new security people in the last, I don't know, year or so, but apparently that's still not working, and that people are still seeing a lot of break-ins, but the stats really aren't out for everybody to see. So I'd like to see the town publish those on some regular basis.
Yeah, let me talk to the chief. We have those statistics and we should be able to give them to you monthly. And then also, a little summary of, how they may be prevented. I'll tell you, over the last few years, we've been working with both shopping centers, because you're right, there has been a lot of break-ins at the shopping centers. They do have a good security team now at town center. And so that company is owned by a retired officer from Marin County. And so they're outstanding service, but they're talking about doing cameras and some other, crime prevention techniques. So we are working on it, but we'll get you the statistics. We can do that.
I'll also just mention that Chief Norton comes to the town council once a year and gives us a rundown on crime statistics in town over the last year. So that might be I can't remember off the top of my head what time of year that report usually is. We had it relatively recently, but happens once a year. March, okay. So it's in March. So we just had one relatively recently, but that may be next March, something that you might be interested in tuning into. Anyway, thank you, James. We've got a couple more hands up here. Hey, Ashley, did you want to say something? Please jump in.
Hey, happy early birthday.
Hey, thanks.
July 1st.
Yeah.
Hello.
Happy fiscal year.
Yeah.
Canada. There's actually something that I do personally living in Novato. There's through LexisNexis, there's community crime map, and you can narrow it down based on your area to a 1 radius. And so I happen to live near Roland. So I get all of the shopping center break-ins and that reports. So that's something that you can do. And it's called the Community Crime Map. So it's a weekly neighborhood watch report.
Thank you. Yep.
Awesome. Thanks for sharing, Ashley.
That's a good one.
Alrighty, James, thank you for bringing that up. We're going to go to David and then Patty, and that'll probably take us right to the end of our time here.
Yes, I just wanted to add to the discussion of the Prius problem. The newspaper article that Mike referenced a moment ago, I believe, indicated that you could go to a repair shop, and there was something they could do which would make stealing that catalytic converter very difficult. And I just wanted to put that out there as one possible solution to the problem. Thank you.
Thanks, David. Great, and then we will go to Patty here, and she may be our last speaker of the morning. Hey, Patty.
I just wanted to ask about the congregate lunches on Thursdays. Is that on the horizon, maybe outside, or do we have to wait until after summer camp is done, or where are we? That's probably an Ashley question.
Sounds like.
We're still on hold because we don't know what it's going to look like based on our numbers for camp right now, and whether we're going to be utilizing the school property or whether we're going to be hosting our groups inside and on the patio.
Thank you.
All right, well, thank you, Patty. Thanks to everybody who participated, whether just to listen or whether to share your thoughts or ask questions. We're just out of time here now, so we'll be doing this again next Tuesday at 11. We hope to see and hear from you all then, and thank you very much to all of our fantastic staff members who took time out of their busy mornings to come and be with us. So thank you, everybody. Enjoy the rest of your day, and we'll see you next week.
Thanks, everyone. Thanks, team.